Anyway, welcome to Making Learning Visible, Digital Badging in Faith Contexts. I'm Mary Hess, I'm with the REA, and I'm so glad to both welcome you here on behalf of the REA Tech Committee, which is the sponsor for this event, and I will also introduce to you our three panelists, and then we're just going to go and speak and play together. So let me start with Liron Lipinsky, who's over here on the right. She's all about making Jewish education relevant and meaningful for youth. She's the founding director of the Joint Jewish Education Program, which is a collaborative experiential learning community of conservative and reform congregations here in Pittsburgh. Liron provides professional development and consultation in the areas of classroom data analysis, lesson and curriculum design and development, and systematic change. Her passion for education was ignited while teaching in the city of Baltimore as a Teach for America Corps member, and she studied at Johns Hopkins Graduate School of Education. She's currently in the 7th cohort of the Mandel Teacher Education Institute. Welcome. Lisa Brown, sitting right next to her, recently accepted a position as the Director of Digital Ministry with Membership Vision, which builds in some ways on her work in children's ministry and communications at St. Paul's Episcopal Church here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She helps churches connect to people and to God in digital spaces. An active member of FORMA, which is the Episcopal Formation Christian Education Network. And she's also a Girl Scout leader. Lisa is passionate about enriching the spiritual lives of people, and her book, The Best Do-It-Yourself VBS Workbook Ever, will be published in early 2017. And then many of you know Kyle Oliver, who has been deeply involved with our organization for a while. He's an Episcopal priest. He's also, at the moment, just started as an EDD student in the Communications, Media, and Learning Technologies Design program at Teachers College and Columbia University. Previously, he was digital missioner, I love that title, and instructor at the Center for Ministry of Teaching at Virginia Theological Seminary, where he developed the eFormation Learning Community. His work focuses on training church leaders with digital competencies for 21st century ministry leadership. I am so grateful and so glad, and we are so privileged to have the three of you here, and now I will turn it over to all of you.
So digital badging, which is what we're here for. Generally, when you think of badges, you think of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, as Lisa is deeply involved in that as well. But for us, digital badging is a graphic icon, but really it's more than just a graphic icon. Really, digital badges can be found anywhere and everywhere. If you wear a Fitbit and you walk so many steps, you generally receive a badge, an award of some sort. Students and children, actually myself as well, are very familiar with it when they play video games and you move on to the next level. So these digital badges have actually been around for quite some time, and it's only rather recently that we've encountered them in the realm of education. So badges for us communicate what a learner knows and what they can do through the metadata that's actually embedded within each badge. And badges represent the learning journey of the learner, but it's a very, it's a relationship. So in order to earn the badge, the learner has to, go through any specific steps, if you will, or actually earn it. And the badges themselves represent what it is that they learn. So it is a relationship.
So how we'd like to structure the first part of this workshop is to step you through the three very different uses of digital badging from our three respective contexts, tell you a little bit about how we've used badges and some of what we've learned. And then we'll press ahead and try to have some fun and get you all earning badges with us.
She's probably a former Girl Scout, right?
I'm wondering, is this a laser pointer too?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, no, actually, maybe it is if you do the top thing.
You can't tell. It doesn't matter. So there's a couple of, I'm so used to standing up and just waving my arms a lot. So this is a new format for me. The digital badging program in the e-formation and learning community, this professional development connected learning organization that I've been a part of for the last 4 years, the digital badges represent for us a sort of hypothesis, which is that, I don't know about you all, but in the context where I serve, or served previously, it was challenging to help people hold a space for doing professional development. We mostly serve members of Forma, these faith formation ministers in Episcopal congregations. Many of them are wearing lots of hats, doing multiple jobs. Many of them are working part-time in their congregations, and just making time to do professional development. Everyone says they want to do it, but actually carving out that space is really challenging. And so we seek out as many ways as possible in the CMT to support the community we serve in doing that. So you can see that we've used badges in some ways as a way to basically mark that people have taken part in some professional development or another. So if people come to our events and get some training in using digital media for ministry, then the badge is the thing that gives them that little extra nudge to do the follow-up when they get home, to complete a project and actually creating some kind of media or implementing some kind of plan. And so the badge is just that little bit of extra nudge to say, okay, you've gotten the training, now go and try it, go and use it. But we also realized that in creating this badge curriculum, we've essentially created a bunch of project-based learning curriculum that can be used in a self-guided way by people in our network, whether or not they've come to a particular event. So I think that's a huge benefit of why we're doing this. I also would love to have people in our network talking about the skills that they've developed in the course of earning these badges when they're in interviews and stuff. We have this common question of like, well, who is guaranteeing that credential? Who is vouching for your skills when you earn a digital badge? And kind of the whole point is that this is project-based learning, and the work that you did to earn the badge is what vouches for you. This is a matter of again, I think holding a space to say, hey, I've completed this project. And yeah, that doesn't mean I've earned some fancy degree, but it does mean that I have a sort of talking point for a skill that I've developed as a minister. So how do you earn a digital badge in our context in e-formation? We developed this sort of 5-stage process, and those of you who are familiar with design thinking know that like helping people engage some kind of a design typically involves guiding them through a process. And so the sort of 5-stage process for us is to encounter the skill, to design some kind of project that demonstrates that you have that you've learned something in a concrete way, to implement that project and reflect on it, and then share. So in the future, we envision where we're developing a lot of these badges and working with lots of partners to offer and administer them, having this common methodology for whenever you earn a badge, you're going to be, learning some skill, but you're always going to be stepping through the same sort of steps. We created a what's commonly called an onboarding badge, a badge that you earn to sort of like get up and running in the system, so that like guides you through. I don't want to take the time to watch this video, but the onboarding badge has a little demo video on YouTube, so that when somebody wants to get up and running in our system, they can play the video and it will show them how to use the system. One of the regrets that I have is that in implementing this digital badging system in our context, incorporating that into our website, it's a little clunky. It involves a couple of steps, and I wish it were simpler. And if I were a better programmer, I would have tried to build it from scratch. But as it is, I used a toolkit from one of the badging, technology companies. And so it's a little clunky. So we have this video, and I know we'll definitely lose some potential participants in stepping through that. Yeah, question?
showing it right now, are you?
What's that?
You're not showing it right now.
I don't want to get bogged down in the details of any one.
But just a question, could we have the link for you?
Oh, sure.
That would be
Yeah. Well,
then they actually go to their website. It's right there. It's that simple.
yeah, you can go to.
Probably recognize.
Yeah.
I will add it to the REA Facebook stream though. So,
Yeah, and I think we can make these slides available too, and there's probably some live links where you can even see, but for what it's worth, eformationvts.org is the URL. So we get them up and running. We've decided to split our badge offerings into a couple of different categories. We've got skills badges where people are actually learning to do digital projects. We've got leadership badges. These are our ways of sort of recognizing the leaders in our community. So people who presented our conferences, who mentor our badge earners, etc. We want to recognize them. And then we also do badges just for participation in our events. And in fact, I'll pass around later. I forgot to take them out there in my bag. We have little physical versions of the badge for participating in our conference. So you can see, actually I don't think I have one on my computer right now, that's my computer there. But we want people to put them on there. I'll pass a few around. We want people to promote our program by putting them on there. But so we encourage people to sign on and claim their badge. We view our in-person events as a key way of getting people interested in setting up an account and joining our group. We know that not everyone who comes to our in-person events are going to do that, but we want to use that as an onboarding opportunity as well. Almost done here. We've also offered what we call partner badges. So these are badges that we and another organization have agreed to offer together. So we have one for if you're planning a vacation Bible school, because that's a strength of our group. So we offer a badge for people who are working on that, and that provides them with a lot of guidance about how to set up a vacation Bible school program. And you'll notice that that's not a digital skill. You can use digital badges for credentialing non-digital skills, and that's one. We offer these participation badges with other organizations, sort of like-minded groups who just want to be able to offer a badge for participating in the event. And we've partnered with some other organizations. That digital strategist badge goes with an online course that I developed for a online religious education group called Church Next, which is doing online courses that you can sign up for. Finally, we have these things that we've been calling third-party badges, and this is folks who don't want to have to set up a badge offering framework, but do want to be able to offer badges. So if they feel okay with having people sign up through our system, they can say, hey, if you want to earn this badge, go create an account on the eFormation website, and you can earn this badge. So in that case, they totally design it. We don't have any design input. We just administer the badges for them. When people submit their materials, we either approve them or we send them along to them to be approved. So we worked with a person who was doing a curriculum on environmental sustainability and religious education, and we offer badges for their program. I will say we've had just decidedly mixed results. You probably can't read. These are questions about, like, do you think badges will help to motivate you to do follow-up, to strengthen the bonds between the people in our organization, to sell yourself to potential employers? Do you think badges are useful for all of these things? And you can see a real consistent pattern of pretty strong ambivalence. We have a few people like Lisa, who are bad. I mean, I've noticed that more than other things in my experience, people sort of either get it or they don't. They're either excited about it or they're not. Some people are like, what the heck are you doing? A lot of people, in fact, are like, oh, that sounds fine, but I'm probably not going to do that. And then a few people who are like, yes, I'm all in. And we've taken that to heart. And in fact, we've sort of taken our foot off the gas in developing this badging system for now. We decided it wasn't the top strategic priority for us. We'll continue to bring badges online as we create curriculum anyway, so that people who want to learn those skills can do it. But we're not actively developing new badges or trying to recruit folks right now, because we just, in terms of person power, we didn't have enough to make this a priority for the time being. So they're still there, people can still learn. So that's my context, and then I pass the clicker.
All right. Ooh, can you click and I'll do this?
Oh, sure.
All right, cool. So again, I am Lisa Brown, and I got involved with digital badging because, as we've mentioned, I am a longtime Girl Scout and Boy Scout leader. And what really triggered it, I work for a church, and so I've had the experience of saying, I work for a church, and having the response in the outside world be kind of like, that's nice, yeah, you all know this. And what I was seeing is the community that I live in is a very academically motivated community. Our kids go to college at the rate of about 99%. Go to very competitive colleges, and are certainly always looking for ways, that's a big motivation for our parents. And what I was finding is when our kids were going on college interviews, but this also can apply to job interviews as well, and they say, I'm very active in my church. Well, what does that mean? And they really didn't have the language to say, no, wait, I've really developed some skills and competencies that are recognized as being valid in the outside world. So I loved the idea of digital badging, and what was kind of fortuitous is Pittsburgh was one of a number of cities of learning through the Remake Learning Network. This was about 2 years ago, and they were doing a test program asking organizations that offered opportunities for learning outside the classroom to create digital badges that represented their context and have those all be part of a jointly shared platform. So what was really nice about that is it also gave me the opportunity to sit in a room full of people from Pittsburgh who represented quite a diversity of organizations in Pittsburgh and say, oh, I'm with the Episcopal Diocese of Pittsburgh. And have people turn around and say, oh, what are you doing here? I think there was a real surprise that a faith-based organization, number one, could be involved in kind of cutting-edge technology, or that could offer opportunities for experiential learning that weren't strictly faith-based, that it wasn't about memorizing Bible verses. And so I think that gave me an opportunity also to talk to some community leaders and really engage in some interesting partnerships. One of the things that I've found is that the circles that I run in, both the faith circles and the arts circles, everybody's talking about the same social justice issues and yet have something of a suspicion about each other. And so this, anytime I can bring those worlds together, I love to do it. So some of the badges that I defined that summer, we have a very active church music program. And I know in many of our school districts, music and arts education is being cut. So my thinking was, maybe this is a way to quantify for parents, or to say to parents, if you want your child to participate in music education, this is a way to kind of validate that. That particular summer, moving on to the middle one, our Vacation Bible School program was based around a community garden that we formed that would then provide produce to a local food pantry. So one of the badges that I defined had to do with learning about how to plant a garden, defining a garden, the demographic needs and concerns of food insecurity in our surrounding community. The final badge with the goat, we have gone on a mission trip to McDowell County, West Virginia, for the past 5 years now. It's one of the poorest counties in the United States. And again, I'm coming from a very affluent community. And our goal in the mission trip was to really get away from the model of, we who have so much are going to give to so little, because that's just awful, and really helping kids step out of their comfort zone, expand the definition of who is my neighbor, and witness some of the profound work that is being done on the ground in this community. We show up and we help people that are getting it done with nothing, who are really helping their neighbors. And we show up and we're like, all right, how can we help? And so really understanding other people's perspectives and concerns and the demographics of that. And the reason there's a goat on there is that the organization that we partner with, they also work with Grow Appalachia. And so they serve families and teach them how to grow produce and raise livestock. So part of our fundraising efforts were to buy a herd of goats, which we did, and one was named after me. So, hey, I think I really talked about pretty much everything on there. But, you know, again, it reflects some of the technical skills that people can learn in terms of music. Oh, and the picture of the kids huddled in the middle. And I did not show this badge. There was also a shepherd badge for the kids who worked with my vacation Bible school. I typically run a vacation Bible school with about 100 kids, and that's comprised of about 55 little kids and about, let's see my math right, and about 35 or 45 teenagers. And the training that those teenagers go through, and they're also integrally involved in designing and implementing the program. I don't purchase a box curriculum. We design our own program, we build our own sets, and the teenagers are very involved with that. So again, all of these skills are ones that really are transferable into the outside world. So giving the kids the ability to articulate what they've learned and the skill sets they've developed. Our badge framework, and both Kyle and Liron talked about this, when I thought about designing the badges, and again, if you're familiar with the Scout badges, there's usually a structural framework that all the badges have a certain number of steps that relate to one another. And I think if you're starting a badge program, that's really the most important part. You can't just jump right in with badge number one. You want to think about, what is my structural framework? Will each badge have 3 or 4 components? What are the mandatory components? And where do we provide optionality? You know, where you can do this project, or this project, and it still would fulfill the requirement. And the other thing you might want to think about is if you're doing badges that build successively on one another. So you may have groupings of badges that you earn this. For example, you earn the music badge by being a participant in one of our music ensembles, but maybe there's, you know, a band leader or whatever. For those kids that take it to the next level, that run an ensemble, that choose music, that transpose music, so take on a leadership capacity. So again, it's kind of differentiated. There's some participatory badges, but then maybe some leadership ones to move you through steps in the process. So for us, we wanted to make sure that badges acknowledged when kids provided real work and did real service. They needed to understand the context of the need that they were providing or meeting. They needed to participate in the planning and decision-making and implementation of the service. We also needed to connect the service to their faith through the baptismal covenant. When people are baptized and when kids become confirmed, they make promises as to how they will engage in the world that are very scripturally based. So we really wanted to connect the badges back to saying to the kids, this is how you live your baptismal covenant. And then we also asked them to reflect and document the process. And so that could be just telling the story in person, but it really led them also towards more digital storytelling. So for example, our community gardener one, they worked in the garden, they had to work in the garden, they had to learn about various plants and gardening techniques, they had to learn about organic gardening, and this was maybe an optional one. So they could either learn about organic gardening and the role of bees and pest management, or they could prepare a recipe using produce from the garden. They had to learn about food insecurity in our neighborhood and the demographics of the people served by the food pantry. And then they had to tell a story. So they had to create like a social media post. So some of the competencies that would involve would be problem solving, design process, selecting materials, assessing and planning, and storytelling. And I was able to identify the competencies because the Remake Learning Network has a great document of different competencies that map up to core competencies, like as defined by the state of Pennsylvania and many other kind of national boards.
And they're just remakeLearning.org, right? Something like that.
Look up Remake Learning, you'll find it. Okay. I don't know what just happened there. Okay, so the Who is My Neighbor? And it was interesting because this one, in really learning to understand where other people are coming from, problem solving, peer assistance, media activists, because that's one of the things with working with people in Appalachia is that's a story that's not always told outside of the surrounding area. We think about poverty and sometimes we assume a very urban nature of poverty. Open-mindedness, empathy, giving back, collaboration, cross-cultural understanding, selecting materials, assessing and planning, storytelling. So all these, again, terms and competencies, if you help a kid define this is what I've done, when they sit down in a college interview and they're like, hey, this is what I've done, they can throw out some words and techniques and experiences in a context that makes sense academically.
Can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
To brag about your daughter. Talk about media activists. Lisa's daughter shot a documentary of this process that was incredible. I immediately tried to hire her as a videographer for our e-formation event. It didn't work out, but some really, talk about making learning visible, some really cool media came out of this.
Is that available?
It is. If you go on, or if you on YouTube, if you look up Stephanie, Stephanie Brown, Unfinished Grace. And she,
I will try
Yeah.
to keep
We'll link-
everything.
we'll link you up.
We'll get you connected. Yeah.
The goal of this video was to define what makes a good mission trip, and it was shot on site on our mission trip, interviewing all of the stakeholders, the participants, the leaders, people down there. And so she designed it so that if you want to encourage people to go on a mission trip, that you can use this to encourage going on mission trips. So, caveats and challenges. I love digital badging, and I love participation, and I love kids that just take the ball and run with it. On the other hand, we live in a community where kids are constantly being judged by what they produce, how much they excel, or if they meet a certain standard. As a church, I don't want to fall into that being the only way in which we engage with kids. I want my kids to know, you know what, if you don't want to do any of this, and you just want to come hang out at VBS, or you're going on the mission trip and you don't care about this, or you just want to come hang out, that's okay too. So that was really important for me, that this not become yet another way that kids are forced to compete with one another. They want to reward what they do, but not penalize or frown upon the kids who don't have that level of involvement. The other frustration I had was because I was using an external platform, is it needed to be very self-driven, like the kids had to log on and make their accounts, and they kind of weren't getting it, and it was over the summer when we didn't have a lot of structured programming, so I couldn't get on them and like nudge the heck out of them and be like, did you make your account? Did you make your account? Did you make your account? It would have been nice if I could have set our entire group up myself and then pushed out the information and said, hey, you've done this, you've earned this. And so I think that's what Kyle's talking about too, is we need to find a process and platform that's easy to use, and for me, that allows better access as the church, as the badge issuing agency.
Okay. So as Mary said, I'm Liron Lipinsky. I'm the director of the Joint Jewish Education Program, which is a supplementary religious education program for students in kindergarten through 7th grade. It's right here in Pittsburgh. The Joint Jewish Education Program is made up of students from both the Reform movement, Rodef Shalom, and the conservative movement, Beth Shalom. So I was trying to also, when creating this, I was also trying to find another way for us to have some things in common. Our program takes place primarily on Sunday morning. We have 163 students, and that's our main program. And then we also offer 4 different Hebrew education options. So the reason why this actually came about, or why I created Badge Quest, is because since our students come in primarily only on Sundays and from all over, so some can walk over to Rodef Shalom, and some are from the South Hills and North Hills, all over the place. What I learned was that for most of our families, they try to cram in all things Jewish during the weekend and on Sunday mornings, and then that's it. They feel like they did their part. And I was really troubled by that.
Yeah, we don't relate to that at all.
No. I was really troubled by that, and so my first goal was to try to extend the learning past the time that they're with us, right, outside of the walls. And as I indicated, some students are with us for 2.5 hours, some up to 7 hours, but still very rarely does anything really happen at home. And so I wanted it to come from them. And so our second goal was to teach our students to look at everyday life, everything that happens around them through a Jewish lens, and make it available, right, available for them. When I first started to research this, and it was when I learned about digital badging, I thought that it was very cool that it was a way for our students to earn, points, if you will, for trying to do something a little extra. But again, that wasn't the point, right? So I know that there is the Jewish Education Project in New York, which does something similar, but for them it was very content-based. And so I didn't want to create anything with an expiration date, right? So our students are not going to be learning or trying to earn the Jewish New Year badge in December, because the Jewish New Year generally happens in like September, October, right? Rosh Hashanah. And so I wanted something that lived a bit longer and that would live with them at home, again, past the walls of the congregation. I also wanted to allow our students the agency of choice in learning, right? Our students are very diverse. There's a reason why they're only with us generally on Sunday mornings, and that's because they're busy with like theater and art and other arts and soccer and whatever, and that's cool. But I wanted them to see how that could be Jewish also. And so I wanted to build in an agency of choice. And then to get our students a mode of making their learning visible. And so actually before this was even created, I had digital portfolios for our students, right? And it was very much like, let's put up online what it is that they're doing in the classrooms. So that was nice. And again, I went back to that initial goal of making it live outside of the walls. And so I thought about pulling 8 Jewish values, and I don't know how far you guys can see, but my team and I, my teachers and I, actually identified 8 different Jewish values that we were going to create as a part of this program. So the first one was studying Torah, the Bible, taking care of yourself, guarding the earth, welcoming strangers, derech eretz, or being a mensch, being nice, being a good little boy, right? Helping the poor, repairing the world, and then honoring parents and teachers. And then we gave it like, cool little badge names that we thought would be great for the kids. So we had a hashtag here and there, and we incorporated some Hebrew words into it. And then as you can see, as you can see on the bottom are the actual badges that we created. Now, I have to tell you, I go on Facebook and I can do whatever, but I'm not a digital guru, I'm not tech savvy. And so I did have a consultant, Sarah Blattner out of Timrit, which is in Portland, Oregon, helped me with the actual technology part, because so often I see, especially my peers and colleagues, be really shy away from doing anything digital or anything that has to do with technology beyond an LCD projector, because they just don't know what to do. They're not a programmer or designer or anything like that. And so the actual curriculum and all that came from me and my teachers, and then our consultant helped us with actually making it alive online. And so we looked at a variety of platforms. We decided to go with Utopia, which is Y-O-U, Utopia, which is out of Chicago. So it could live, through that. We're looking for something that was badge ready. We're looking for something that was easy enough for both the kids and the teachers to work with, which I'll show you in a little bit. But also that was private, because most of these kids are under the age of 13. So how do you earn a badge? And actually, I met Kyle and Lisa through creating this conference session here, but what I found is that we actually all are doing exactly the same thing. So to earn a badge, a participant must first earn 3 tokens. Again, I didn't want them to just earn this, the derech eretz Supermensch badge and then, just move on to another one. We wanted them to play with it for a bit more. We also knew that kids would not just go out of their way and just start going after badges. It needed to come from somewhere, which is what Lisa was talking about. And so all of our digital badge programming starts in the classroom. And so, I'm so sorry. To first earn, they first earn the Discover token, and Discover starts in the classroom. That's when they're learning about the Jewish value with their teacher in those 4 walls. And we've created a curriculum for kindergarten through 7th grade, and it's actually broken down in K through 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then 5th through 7th grade. And it's either based on specific Torah texts for the older kids, or kid stories for the younger ones, which is cool. And actually what happened as we're creating this is that we realized that there's a likelihood of this living outside if the parents are involved as well. And so on our Discover days, when our teachers are all focusing on a discover of one specific Jewish value, I also have adult ed for the parents at the same time, so that they have similar vocabulary and they can go home and talk about the same texts, the same philosophies, the same stories, the same values, on their drive home. And that's actually, I think, has been the most successful part, of our program. So once a student learns about the Jewish value, they plug things online, they basically show their artifacts of learning. So essentially everything that Kyle said, that in order to earn a badge, they do it for each one of the tokens, right? The second one is play. So you've learned what this Jewish value is, now play with it on the outside world, right? So whether it's math class, whether it's on the soccer field, whether you're on the stage for Lion King Jr., like, where do you see this Jewish value living? Play with it. Where does it play in your real life? Now come back and collect artifacts of learning, talk about it. So some kids take some pictures and then caption them. Some create a whole presentation, and they're a lot more tech savvy than I am. I videos and all sorts of stuff. And then some just come back and ramble on and on and on about what it is that they experience, which is so, so cool. Now, some kids are not so independently motivated, right? And so for the kids that can't naturally just see it in front of them, that, Susie helped Johnny in math class and she was being kind. So we also have created specific quests for kids to go on. So you could either A, plug in where you see this Jewish value, or B, follow a specific quest in order to find this in your life. So once you do that, then you've earned the second token for the badge to play, and then you learn about it, you saw it happening, now create a plan for you to continue living this Jewish value in your everyday life. And this actually varies within grade levels. Some are very independent when they create their plan, and in the younger grades, they actually team up with a friend, which is very nice. And then as you can see, the 3 tokens, they do say discover, play, and create. They look very similar. And something that we worked with the graphics person is that even in the logo, they're the same shapes and such. Okay, so this is just, I took some screenshots, which are pretty hard to see, of what it looks like. So I will say that last year was our first year, the big kink was that we needed parents to go on and create accounts for their kids. And sometimes there were more kids than email addresses, which was really the difficult part. What we did for this year was that every time a child registered, or their parents registered a child for the program, then we automatically create a jjep.org email address for them. And therefore, we took off, the parents part of it. We did the work for them. The parents still get all communications or copies of. So again, any privacy issues or whatever are taken care of. As you can see, it says the child can click on the discover, play, and create. And again, they each earn points just so it's automatic. When they earn so many points, the badge is issued for them. So the kids go online and fill out, either upload the video or the picture or whatever they create, and then our teachers at their own time go online and go through it and can accept the submission. And so yes, you do then have to have teachers that are able and interested in participating in this. All of my teachers are actually teachers. This also shows you, this is from the 5th through 7th grade part. So this is in the Supermensch. Your quest is to just change someone's day, not the whole world, right? And so that's how we taught we taught about supermensch, about being kind, about just changing someone's day, and that's how they started. They watched some videos, so everything looks completely different for every single value. Okay, and this just gives you, again, another screenshot. This is from the manager's perspective. So the reason why I'm showing you this is to show you how easy it is, regardless of your comfort zone with regards to going online and digital stuff. Super, super easy. Okay, and then this is actually a page. When we first created this, I thought that just 3rd through 7th graders would be on the digital platform. And we created a lot of really cool kindergarten through 2nd grade workbooks. And then we learned that the kids, all of them, can just go online. And so, so this is a page from the workbook, one of the workbooks that we created, where the kids can like write in their, what it is that they learned and their plans and all that jazz. And then we just threw them out because the kids are online. And so, as Lisa mentioned, like what our biggest challenge and only challenge was with regards to the accounts, and that's how we solved it by creating their own email addresses. But we actually had amazing results with this. So as a whole, kindergarten through 7th grade, we had 85% of all of our students participate in this. And then specifically last year, our 4th and 5th graders were at 93% participation. And although I don't have any like hard data yet for this school year, so far it seems similar, right? So last year's 4th and 5th graders or this year's 5th and 6th graders, and are just as active as they were last year. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I don't know if the teacher just pushes it more. I don't see her doing anything different than anybody else. Maybe it's just the kids. Prior to creating this, I obviously did have to analyze to see if this would be something that could live among us, right? Like if the kids were able to go online and had the interest in incorporating digital anything into their religious education. And I learned that they did. Like whenever we tried flipped classroom days and things like that, the kids were really into it. Also, one of our Hebrew programs, we have 4 different Hebrew options, and one is online. And so I had enough data to know that this could potentially work, and it did. And so the first year, which was last year, was with regards to funding it, was like the funding heavy year, with creating the platform, with writing the curriculum, with all the graphics and all the technology and all of that stuff. And then now that it's alive and well created, our fee to Utopia is only like $1,000 a year, right? So once it's up and running, it's not something that's going to continue to drain your pockets, which is something that we were obviously very concerned about. And so now it's your turn, right? So very rightfully so, just about all of you have some sort of device in front of you, whether it's a phone or an iPad or a laptop or something. And so I'm not going to go into the whole discover lesson of what something means, right? What the value means. But I think we all basically know what it means to be kind, right? It's like being kind to somebody. I want you to take a look through the pictures that you have on your device. And your quest is to find a picture that represents this value, the derech eretz, the being nice one, right? And then to earn this token, because you're going to be playing with it, right? We imagine that you already had your discover lesson, you learned it, you earned that token. Now you're working to earn your play to see how it is in your real life. And I want to earn this, you are to tweet or post on the REA Facebook your pictures with the hashtag Supermensch.
And we are just about to create the post so you can just comment.
That's right. Yeah, so you can do it on Facebook, which is super easy. And RA 16.
Yep.
And then, again, we're focusing on the being kind one. And do you want to go into the Facebook thing?
Yeah, so we'll create a post on the REA Facebook page that says, comment on this post to share your picture and your comment. Or if you're a Twitter user, you can just do the photo and your comment.
I'll retweet it as REA.
you want to, you should just get out of that slide.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
okay.
face
Out of
right
slide.
behind that.
All right.
So start with
You're
your
playing.
So, well, I was just gonna say, so what do we want to call it? Poster play.
Close, yeah, please close to your Uber on your with the super much.
Supermatch. Hashtag Supermatch. Oh yeah, the playthrough.
So if you need to be Facebook or Twitter, huh?
Is this, what do you want it to
I
say?
think she's going with Facebook.
We're on Facebook.
This is Facebook right now, but you can do Twitter too. I'm just saying, because a lot of people find Facebook simpler, so then you can just hit comment and then put something there.
So if you've never commented with a photo in Facebook before, if you go down here, see there's the comment box, and there's a little camera right here, and you can just put your photo in and then write something. So the what is it? Facebook.com/religious education.
Yeah, or just look, if you look up Religious Education Association in the search Facebook, or if you go to our webpage, you can click on the icon, or
Like I would take a picture of these pictures you gave me. That was so nice.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
yeah.
So it can be a picture from your device or take a
Yeah.
picture. Lots of less videos. I have 11,000 pictures on my phone. So hashtag, best hashtag ever. Just REA 16 or 2016.
If we comment, we don't have to necessarily.
Yeah, you don't have to really do that.
Great picture.
Are you on Facebook?
Do you want to refresh it because it looks like?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jonathan, does anybody have them? Do we shine this on?
There is a,
Actually have to have a Facebook.
let's see, there's three, this was Sarah Stone Cipher.
Oh, great. Yeah, she's our colleague at UTS.
There was an iPhone that came out for 3 minutes.
She is just
Oh,
comments.
What did we say the hashtag was Supermatch for that edition?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute.
Actually, yeah, because, oh, here we go. Yeah, just hit comment. And then press.
Lisa's is such a great example. That's such a fabulous example.
Doesn't I haven't found the Facebook page yet?
Anybody else need some help?
Well, that's gonna open. That's gonna open. So on your phone, I'm not sure how it works, and on the iPhone, it's opened up the photo.
Sometimes if you go into the photos first, there's a way that you can
Oh,
post.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So instead of starting in the app, start with the photo.
Go to photos first before going on Facebook.
It depends on what kind of what device are you on.
I have an iPad.
Okay.
On the iPad, if you hit the camera, it'll open up your photo library right from
So
Facebook.
scroll down on the post.
So choose your
Scroll down to
picture.
the comments and keep going. Yeah. Keep going.
Everyone
Okay, so there's your
displays
See
the
that one
image.
photo?
Oh, that's that?
So attach a photo.
Being kind.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I think you have to keep
Get over there, we'll take a selfie, and you'll say.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
All right, I appreciate this.
Oh, there it is.
there's two things. You could actually do it
As well.
Come up.
I don't use it that much. There it
Yeah,
is.
'cause you don't have Facebook.
Anybody waiting for help?
It's so cool.
Oh, okay.
So if you just tweet
All right.
it, yeah, the first time.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
So
Then
it's
I go
already
way
there.
back
Say
into
hashtag
Facebook.
on the, hit the icon.
There we go.
What's the hashtag
Which one? There's two.
for Twitter?
There we go, there we go.
Twitter stories,
That's
see?
photo. Photo one.
There
And
it is.
hashtag
Oh, cool. Here we are.
Okay.
In all my work, you can get it.
Okay.
Super
Yeah.
cool. I still got it.
REA 26.
No, just 16.
Oh, just 16.
Yes.
Okay.
And is it hashtag superbench?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then hashtag superbench.
Say whatever you want to
I
say.
need to try away, so we're right on this hashtag.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
SC. And if you tweet, it should.
Okay.
There you go. Great.
Let's see if this came up on the.
Yeah, that's how they are. All right.
And remember, people, when you're taking selfies, always from above.
Yeah.
Same thing, that's right.
Did it come through?
If you learned nothing else today.
REA 16.
They're forever now.
Post something on Twitter was weird.
I don't know what happened there. I don't have an RE16 from him. I have, for me, Kyle.
Well, yeah,
Sarah Stone
so his share
That's so cute.
is not.
You're scrolling to this.
It's not bringing up a Facebook
Oh.
icon.
Are you Charles?
Yeah.
Oh, you showed up.
If you have a Twitter account, then you might not.
Charles, I
Thank you.
can not just not it's just not.
It's just-
Well, it's, I'm just trying to be, so you're there.
It's going to show up.
It'll show up on the Twitter feed.
Stop it.
Twitter feed.
You
That's a
bring
nice
your
picture.
request.
Picture. I love that. All right, all right.
That's all that matters.
Twitter feed to show people.
So Mary,
There we go. Okay.
I told you I could give you my Facebook, but I had to create one because I manage our Facebook page. So
Stop it.
what you see on there
Keep on,
is.
okay, you take it.
Go back. Oh, you're trying.
We're trying, we're trying.
Okay.
Well, you can tweet, oh, you don't want to tweet.
But I posted the comment. It's just.
Well, you,
So there's Kyle,
Yeah.
looking at somebody's
Yeah.
poster.
That's me,
Nice.
yes.
And you, okay, good. Okay, so, all right. So let's really.
I can see.
I'm used to.
Unless you haven't downloaded it, which usually won't. Go to your, go to Google Play.
Superman.
Well, you can do it. So if you just go to Google Play, have you done it?
Relive it. I don't know how I got it, but let's do it.
Play, little arrow and then,
you have too many photos. Is there?
Okay, which one else we got here?
Yep, play, yep. So that's how you download apps.
Okay.
You know, Android. So just type in Facebook.
Nice.
Bring up the- and if you have it, it'll tell you.
I don't know the plan.
Cool. Nice, nice.
Okay, you don't have it. You don't have it on phone. Right, you don't have the app. Right. The app is so much easier on your phone.
Love that one.
So do we have a way to issue the ads for people?
Oh. They're not on my platform.
Okay, so, no, let's think about this. All right, so we need to,
We could
all right,
save
let me
the,
play something, I was gonna say, like, say that as a thing on in the comments or
Oh,
something
cool.
like that. Okay, so,
yeah, let's, why don't we save the,
which image?
of the bad,
So I like the token, they're really.
or the token, yeah. So we can, sorry, I'm gonna get my mind in the frame.
All right, so,
Why don't after the, how about after this session, we just,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna, so you've earned this token, And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an image of the token and post it on this thread where you can post it.
Hold on, now we have to go to the next slide though.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Anybody saying please wait 2 more minutes? Are we okay to move on? Okay. Okay, that's fine.
You small.
Let's wait another minute while we get organized up here. Can't talk.
It is 1:28. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then the last part is,
And I think
yeah. So here, want to switch that once?
All right. You're gonna earn another token, people.
Yeah.
Yes. We're getting you through this badge.
Yes.
That's right.
All right, so I'll do this in its
Okay.
That's what REA needs an app.
We need to stick with this
Do
guy.
you want to, we have.
Good. Okay. All right.
All right. So you've earned your play token when you shared the picture that represented that Jewish value and the lovely captions around it. Now let's work to get the create token. Therefore, you can earn the entire badge. And I want you to think, fair share. Turn to the person that's sitting next to you, and together create a plan to continue living this value in every day. Right. So create a plan to continue being kind. What are some things you can do to continue to be kind every day? So just turn to the person next to you. You're not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just.
So what you're thinking is
Yeah, but we like actually have all these stickers. Absolutely. Like books or something that we also have, those slap bracelets.
Oh, yeah.
So it says match bracelet on it, and it's like a part of the slap bracelet is like from drag. So like as yeah, so all the kids are able to see like all different
No, we skipped the first one.
After that,
I feel so.
The other big one is on services. So yes,
Alright, and then I'm gonna ask
So are we ready with our discussions?
Did anybody want to share their plans that they created to continue living this value every day? I saw some discussions taking place. Would you like to?
Just later in the day, being kind to people by saying, thank you, and I'm going to be in High alone, and I'm going to be seeing my nephew after this, so it's going to be a nice family visit with him.
We talked about changing one person's day versus the world, because one person then can change someone else's day. Just being nice and saying a nice thing and greeting them and smiling. So change one person's day.
We thought pray and help someone.
My brain was all over the place. I'm thinking about how the badges might be used, so we talked about.
we went meta.
We went meta. So
All right, it happens. That's good. That's good. Well, that's a great transition because we're going to open it up for questions if you want to put that.
Is this
So
end
I
of
can-
conference,
I
Brian?
can help moderate, but what
Yeah.
questions do you have? What would you like to, while we have these three here, what would you like to know?
A very, very specific technical question. Have you heard of the Buddy Press badge program? With WordPress?
Yeah.
Any comments, or is that too specific?
So on WordPress, I'm happy to field it if others might find it useful. So the way that we implemented digital badges on the eFormation website, which is a WordPress site, is we used a badging plugin called Badge OS. And Badge OS allows you to create the badges. The badges are in accordance with the Mozilla Foundation's description of open badging. So like you can add this to your Mozilla badge backpack and all that kind of thing. So I found the Badge OS system to be like pretty good. It incorporates, one of the plugins that it relies on is BuddyPress. So it builds on BuddyPress and does some more things. I don't know if BuddyPress is Mozilla Open Badge compliant or not on its own. So pros and cons. I found Badge OS to be pretty good. As I said, it just you can't get around the fact that you're going to have to create an account to earn a badge. I'm not thrilled with how the account management, as a default matter, works on WordPress. Period. But you know, you gotta. The account's not going to change. So, so Liron solved this by going with a much more user-friendly standalone system. But the disadvantage there is you can't build it into your website.
Well, the reason why we did is actually because you can't use the open badges through Mozilla for users under 13. So that's why we had to create a whole separate one.
So, as with all of these technical decisions, it's always trade-offs and what do you need, and what's available, and how much money can you spend. You can do BuddyPress with, or you can do Badge OS with almost no money, but don't forget to factor in your staff time. I spent a lot of money worth of my hours setting our system up. So it might have been cheaper to get in touch with one of these consultants who does this work and just say, get us badges.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I like to do it myself. So.
I came in late, so I may have missed important introductory remarks. Basically, it's based on a website, basically, the program we're talking about. Is there a website you access to create the badges?
We all created our badges
Three
separately.
different
platforms.
Yeah, so it's
Three
three
different
different
platforms.
examples
Three
of
different
digital
platforms.
badging.
So digital badging is sort of an idea
Yes.
to issue these micro credentials via various online platforms. And the Mozilla Foundation has defined a standard called the Open Badges Standard that many of the folks who are issuing digital badges in their organization's work make sure that those badges that get issued conform to that technical standard. And the idea being, that in the sort of connected learning movement, that you could be earning a bunch of different badges from different organizations and have them all going to your, to your
portfolio.
digital backpack, your portfolio, whatever. So it's a sort of interlocking set of software and organizations.
Will we have access to this video and the PowerPoint by any chance?
We can put the link up to the VTS. We'll put the slides and put up a link to the slides.
Excellent.
We'll get you access to everything we've got.
If anybody has any specific questions, I have.
Let me say this. Well, how about I do this? How about I make a post on the main REA website that has that information, and then I'll link out to it through Facebook to kind of alert people. Okay, that's where you can find it.
I couldn't keep up with all the.
We'll probably have a recording of this too.
I have a couple of questions. I mean, this comes out of some of the things I'm thinking about. The badges, what I hear is you have to enroll somewhere like WordPress and make it happen. But can you, and this might require a programmer, build in tokens into a database type of system? We have an online library where you could actually put tokens where people could, like breadcrumbs, begin to build a badge So check out certain books, do certain types of research.
That's cool.
There could be a badge that comes
Yeah,
at the end of
that's
that.
cool.
Oh, you have a database that like,
Yeah.
has a bunch of resources
Yeah,
that people
yeah.
access
Yeah,
already?
it's a free open online. It's within our tradition of theological education.
Yeah.
We're trying to encourage it globally to be used. So trying to think of ways in which we encourage people using badges that way.
I'm sure you could.
Could
somehow.
you?
Yeah.
Sure you could.
Yeah.
It would require using one of these systems that would plug into your website. So
Okay.
if it's a WordPress website, I really do recommend that Badge OS platform.
And otherwise, we would probably have to custom something.
It might be interesting to do a search out there just to see if there's a library somewhere or system, Eric, you can raise your hand, that's already done it. Because there might be somebody out there in either the school library system or that has something.
Mhm.
And there are some folks, Mozilla really wants these things to take off. And as we've all learned, maybe me and Lisa more so than Liron, like that can be a real challenge to get them to take off. And so for instance, somebody in England who I think works for the Mozilla Foundation contacted me on LinkedIn the other day. I don't know how he heard about this event. He said he couldn't join us probably because he's several time zones away. But he, I think, if I understood this right, works for the Mozilla Foundation, helping organizations implement projects like this.
Cool.
I'd be happy to put you in touch with him.
Absolutely.
There may be others who are involved in doing that work. Certainly the folks who are plugged into the Cities of Learning initiative might be people to connect with. Again, in most cases, I'm sure there's a price tag associated with that, but those are good folks to connect with.
You had a question?
As someone who's only been in the room about 10 minutes, but I'm wondering, would it be appropriate or a misuse of badging for REA, for example, to say for its members or people coming to a meeting that you earn a badge by coming to a conference?
That's Kyle's.
Yeah. When I go to e-formation, I want my badge and it's sticking on the back of my computer.
Right. I mean, so we could do something like that also to introduce people to the concept because they've been earning a badge this time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think starting with a participation badge is a really nice way to get people kind of up and running with what the event is.
We've got memberships, we've got accounts already in place.
Yeah. Here's, if you want, they're only going to be, I can only use them for another month or two. So if you want an eFormation 2016 participant badge, this is, I declare that this is an eFormation learning community event. I don't know if I have enough for everybody. So if you don't think you'll use it, keep passing. I'm sorry.
Ultimately, is there that tangible thing which is actually given? So
You can.
That's why we did stickers.
Yeah, you can.
So for us, it wasn't about that. For us, it's all online, and again,
how did you come up with the 8 Jewish values?
how do we pick the
How
values?
did you pick
So I sat around with my teachers and we looked at something that could work with our existing curriculum. We did not want to create a separate curriculum altogether and just like take us off course. We wanted something that specifically was already built into our existing program.
And like for us, we looked at what programming we were offering and saying, okay, what are the programs in which kids are really developing skill sets that, we'd like to communicate to the outside world.
I would say that's like a better way for things to continue existing if you're not adding like 15 layers of extra work to that.
And were there things beyond the 8 values, or was it 8 values?
Not yet.
Okay.
So this is our second year with it.
I got my badge, so I can go.
There you
And,
Thank you so much.
and the tokens are now on the Facebook and Twitter.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. John will say.
Fill out the evaluation.
I got it right.
Sketch. Okay. Steve.
Yes, I can't remember your name.
Lisa.
Lisa, you mentioned working with the educational system around you in your context.
Yes.
Can you say more about that? Because I lost it, whether or not you were doing these badges to contribute to that, or how does that?
Yes, a little bit of both. I wanted to get into it because I wanted to, like I said, acknowledge the work that my kids are doing, but then the opportunity kind of fell in my lap. Pittsburgh, the Remake Learning Network, was doing a pilot called City of Learning, and I think there were 5 cities that each did their own platforms, and they invited organizations that offered opportunities for learning outside of the classroom to participate. So like the zoo, Phipps Conservatory, some of the local libraries, different organizations that are the Science Center. So each of those organizations, you had to go to a number of meetings and agree to create badges that kind of fell within a certain structural framework, but there was a lot of flexibility. So each organization defined their own badges, and there was a certain number of badges that you could define. And then all of the badges for all the organizations were on this platform. So like Kyle talked about, a person that was participating, they were going to a zoo program, but also happened to be working my VBS, could be like, oh, hey, I can earn a badge at the zoo, I can earn a badge at St. Paul's, great.
Yeah. What a great way to be digitally present in your community.
Yes.
But I just want, was the school system involved in that, or was it all like nonprofits or community?
It was largely nonprofits and community, but a lot of schools who had summer programs and some of the charter schools, it tended not to be the traditional school districts unless it was a particular summer program.
It'd be kind of cool to go to City Hall and try to present this as a way of bringing the community together.
That's very much how Remake Learning sees their role.
Yes.
Is connecting all these after-school organizations to make a sort of coherent, connected learning campus, if you will, in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And what I learned was that a lot of our students are already using digital badges in their regular everyday school life. A lot of math programs these days do use digital badging, which I thought was cool. I learned about after the fact. Yeah.
So here's the badge for crime analysis in the big city from the Center for Data Analysis and Public Policy. Here's one, whoops. Mary's got different tab settings than I do. No, sorry, it's your computer. So there are all kinds of, there's a recipe remix badge here, leader facilitation. These are all badges connected to this, starting seeds.
And connected to the Pittsburgh or the...
Yeah, this is an organization called Homewood Children's Village, is offering as a part of this larger Learning in Pittsburgh initiative, a whole bunch of badges.
And like one of our maker spaces, Assemble, they offer badges. So it's, again, there's these different organizations in Pittsburgh, and to kind of come back to the point, it was exciting for me as a person representing a faith community to be having conversations with these other organizations and say, hey, we're all looking to do the same thing here.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Lisa and I went to a Remake Learning event together and really came away with the thought of, a lot of these organizations, they've got the expertise, they've got curriculum, they've got trainers, they've got everything but space, which is often what our religious congregations have, especially during the week. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but getting involved in these ecosystems of youth development in the places where they're developing, finding connections with in many cities there are nonprofit and for-profit groups that run after school. Connecting with them, I just think there's a lot of possibilities for this particular thing to play a role in getting faith communities connected to connected learning in cities.
I have kind of two questions. The first is, has anyone done it where there's an app for the badge earning? Just because I have a couple of apps that I earn badges for. One of them's Untapped, which is a beer app. But
we're not going to promote that.
No. But the app, using the app, because obviously you work with children, but for the ones that may have the phones, because that would be an easy way for me to check in somewhere and I get a badge or something. I check in.
Like here's my picture of me doing this. Boom, upload it, and it's done.
So were you going to say something?
We considered it because of our age group. We decided not to.
So
this
year,
parents could have an app. Yeah, exactly. So actually, last year kind of happened by accident that we created the adult education around it. This year, we were very mindful about it. So actually, as we speak, there are two different adult ed classes happening for our parents during our program time, and to get them on something like this with an app, they would love that. So that's a good idea.
Do you know that?
I don't know. It'd be great if like BadgeOS would create a
An app kind of platform.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we're getting there. I think this is if the notion of badge issuing and earning and connecting, and I think this is very much still a question about whether this particular way of making learning visible is going to kind of take off. There's a bunch of people who want it to. I'll say most of my professors don't think it's going to happen. But they're just guessing too. I mean, they're probably
They're invested in a different.
good guesses. Yeah, exactly.
Well, so the way that I looked at it is that obviously, like, let's say 50% of your population is interested. That's 50% of the population, right? That you're getting them to be involved in a different way. For us, it's higher currently, but still, like, any little bit counts, right?
Yeah. And so like I think that if they start to do well, I think that technology will probably exist, and it may very well exist already, and we just don't know about it.
Do you know? Have you seen the blockchain stuff that Jane McGonigal is talking about?
No.
So Jane McGonigal is a futurist, and one of the things that I have to admit, I have sort of ambivalent feelings about this, but there's a video, which I can't for some reason find just at the moment, which is her talking about a world in which there is a ledger, and anybody can teach anything, and anybody can earn credentials from anybody teaching anything, and those credentials will get lodged in this ledger, which is run using blockchain technology, which is the stuff behind Bitcoin. So I think that in addition to the stuff that's happening in sort of standardized educational settings, there's a whole bunch of imagination, sort of futurist-oriented stuff. She thinks only in 10-year-out increments. There's a lot of stuff going on about that, and I don't know. I mean, I think the folks, like I have a deep hesitation or ambivalence about some of the language around it, because it begins to talk about this marketplace, and everything gets turned into a marketplace, and everybody has it, and that makes me very nervous about the underlying metaphors for learning. But I think that, which may be, I don't know if that's what your professors are nervous about or not, but it may be that there's some of that concern.
Aren't there, and I'm not taking advantage of any of these yet, but isn't there a thing on Amazon now, like great courses on Amazon?
Oh,
there's so many platforms out there that are certainly moving to offering different opportunities for self-directed learning. So I have to think all this kind of is running in somewhat parallel now, so there's going to be some convergence. And what that looks like.
Is this also connected to artificial intelligence and Watson?
I don't know what you mean.
Watson is the IBM.
Yeah, I know what artificial intelligence and Watson is. I mean, I don't know what you mean.
I didn't know whether there was a connection between what I thought you were referring to in terms of people gaining access online to measure their academic or educational progress. I didn't know whether that was the point you were making with the futurist, accessing whatever they were accessing and then having it confirmed, versus the development of artificial intelligence, which seems like people can just go to a Watson or go to this Google search bank and get credentials or information and be educated via that instead of a human teacher.
Yeah, I'm not, in fact, it's kind of the opposite of the instead of a human teacher, because the argument that Jane McGonigal and others are making is that each of us has something that we could teach. Like each of us has gifts and skills, and so the optimistic end of it, right? Like this is why I'm ambivalent.
Uber
so
for tutors.
The part of that I love is the part that acknowledges that each of us is a learner and each of us is a teacher. And wouldn't it be cool if we could find a way to value that, right?
Match us.
The ambivalence I have is that we too often measure value in sort of neoliberal capitalist terms, and that makes me really anxious.
So rather than Uber for tutors, what about Scouts for
right. Well, and it also gets to that question and that concern that I have. I don't want to make this the focus of the youth minister, because the value of a kid walking in the door is who they are in the eyes of God, not how many badges. And And that's a real fine line and one that I'm always very cognizant of. But on the other hand, equipping them to go out into the real world as a child of God and show what they've done. So there's.
We actually, when we started talking about this, we started talking about what we really needed to emphasize, and I don't know why we didn't. Maybe that was supposed to be me in the introduction. The piece about not so much that this is the great new thing that everybody should do, but what is the challenge that you're trying to work with that this particular thing might help you meet,
yes,
right? So that it's not this because it's whatever, it's because there might be some ways in which bringing stuff home during the week, like finding ways, so as you'll see, each of them we're talking about a challenge that their particular program was seeking to meet through the use of digital badges.
What I like about it, because it could be just perceived as a technical change, just the next fad of whatever. But what I like about it is that wrapped inside of the badge is a more holistic process.
Mm-hmm.
And the badge frames it for them to think about it in that way. That's what's really helpful.
And that also gets to the absolute necessity of being very clear and intentional in framing your process. Like I know Liron talked about working with her teachers to say, what do we want to do? Kyle and I have had a lot of conversations about what is the framework, the overall structure that each badge will fall under.
So in our context, our children's leaders are doing these milestones that are physical stones, but it's the same concept, right? Where they have to achieve a certain kind of process, and then they can get this milestone. But this is a digital.
It's just a different vehicle.
Yeah.
And if I could speak from like my tradition, which I think is related to other similar traditions, one of the reasons I think this is really important is I think in the catechetical process, the fact that it is a process, the fact that like catechesis is a sort of journey that has these check-ins. I mean, a church that I worked at, a very traditional sort of Catholic-looking Episcopal church, embraced this sort of model of baptismal or confirmation or reaffirmation preparation that involved, very specific liturgical commitments. In the service, people got up and signed the book and said they are embarking on this journey. And I mean, if you know that literature, this goes way, way back. And there's something really powerful about that notion of marking progress.
Yes.
Not as a matter of sort of, to use the theological language, not like works righteousness, not like you're earning something, but that you are like on a journey with God and your community. And that journey has stages.
Yes.
And these things are involved in marking that. I think too much of our religious ed doesn't recognize that desire we all have to feel like we are making progress.
You're doing it with the support of the community in a liturgical space.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
And your journey is your own. Like we heard in Liron talking about, when you're going out, whether you're a kid on the soccer field or you're a kid in the theater or it's in the context of your family, it's still your journey. But this is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Can I just invite us to thank our panel, those of us who are still here? I will work hard to get links to these things up so that you can share them.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you so much.
A bunch of us have business cards and stuff up here. We can probably stick around a little bit. We get to get.
I know, that was why I was conscious of.
Okay, we're good.
Thanks, everybody.
That was awesome.
And Liron, I kept thinking, I wish I could do some, I was looking at my phone.
I finished all the medicine that I received. All the 10 days of antibiotics.